Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're going to be diving deep into the world of Senco Gold and Diamonds.
Okay.
You sent us a ton of information on them.
Yeah.
We've got financial reports, we've got presentations, we even have a transcript of their latest earnings call.
Wow.
It seems like you want to know
Yeah.
if their sparkle is really backed by solid gold, so to speak.
Absolutely. There's definitely a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
Um, One of the first things that jumps out to me is how they're blending this kind of like traditional approach with some really cutting edge stuff. I mean,
Okay.
you look at their history, they go all the way back to 1938,
Wow.
pre-partition Dhaka. They were just a single shop back then.
Yeah.
Now they're dabbling in the metaverse with this Linkoverse platform.
It's a pretty big leap.
It is a massive leap.
Yeah, and that journey from a single shop to a publicly listed company,
Yeah.
over 170 showrooms across India, and even a presence in Dubai.
Yeah. Dubai's a big market for them.
It is, yeah, talk about resilience. But it's not just about expanding. They're really focused on purity, quality, and that customer-centric approach.
You know, it's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Because those could just be marketing buzzwords, right?
Right.
But they've actually taken some concrete steps to walk the walk.
Okay.
They joined the Responsible Jewelry Council,
Okay.
which has really strict standards for things like environmental practices and ethical sourcing.
Really trying to.
They're trying to put their money where their mouth is,
Yeah.
it seems like.
And they're not just relying on their reputation.
Right.
They've got over 170 karigars.
Wow.
These incredibly skilled artisans who are still handcrafting pieces.
That's impressive.
But then at the same time, they're launching a My Senco app
Uh-huh.
and these DigiGold and DigiSilver platforms. It's almost like they're trying to be everything to everyone.
It's a real balancing act, isn't it?
It is.
Trying to appeal to both the traditional buyer and someone who's more, comfortable buying gold digital. And this kind of duality comes up again when you look at their financials.
Okay.
You see they've had impressive revenue growth,
Yeah.
but their latest earnings call left some analysts scratching their heads about their profitability.
Really?
Yeah. And how their hedging strategy is actually affecting their margins.
The hedging discussion got a little bit complex.
Yeah, it can be.
To simplify it for our listener, it's basically like they're buying insurance on the price of gold.
That's a good way to put it.
Gold prices fluctuate all the time.
Okay.
So hedging is meant to protect them from losing too much money if prices suddenly drop.
Exactly. It's a common practice in the jewelry business.
Yeah.
But even with that hedging in place, Senco's recent performance has raised some eyebrows,
Interesting.
especially when you compare them to competitors like Titan,
Right.
who've managed to keep their margins much more stable despite similar market conditions. So some investors are wondering, is Senco's hedging strategy actually working as well as it could?
Especially since they admitted on the earnings call that the timing of some accounting related to their hedging made their quarterly numbers look a little worse than they actually were.
Yeah, transparency is going to be really key here.
Yeah.
Senco has said they'll be including quarterly cash flow statements moving forward,
Okay.
which should give investors a much clearer picture of their actual financial health.
Okay, so we've got this company with a long history, a commitment to ethical practices, a really interesting mix of old and new approaches.
Yeah.
And some questions swirling around their financial performance.
Right.
Where do we even go from here?
Well, to really understand Senco's future, we have to understand the playing field they're operating in.
Okay.
And the Indian gems and jewelry market is huge. We're
Yeah.
talking about 80 billion US dollars.
Wow.
And the organized sector, which includes companies like Senco, is growing rapidly.
Okay.
They've got a really strong hold in Eastern India.
Yeah.
But they're making a serious play to become a national powerhouse.
So the question is,
The big question is, can they maintain this impressive growth in such a dynamic and competitive market?
and that is what we're going to be tackling next. We'll dig deeper into the challenges Senco faces, their strategies for overcoming them, and ultimately whether or not they have what it takes to truly shine on a national stage.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, it should be interesting. We left off talking about Senco's goal of going from, a powerhouse in Eastern India to a truly national player.
Right.
It's a pretty ambitious move, especially given how competitive the market is in India.
Yeah, you've got that right. And this Harat strategy, as they call it,
Okay.
is really interesting. They're not just, going out and building tons of new stores.
Yeah.
They're relying heavily on this franchise model.
Okay.
And they're targeting these smaller, like Tier 3 and Tier 3 cities and towns
Okay.
where there's a lot of potential.
So franchise model means they're basically partnering with local business owners
Exactly.
who then run Senco
Yeah,
stores.
it's a smart way for them to expand quickly without taking on too much risk themselves.
Yeah, but doesn't that also mean that they have less control
Hmm.
over things like quality and the customer experience?
That's the trade-off.
Okay.
And it's not without its challenges, for sure.
Right.
They're going to need to make sure that these franchise partners are really up to snuff
Yeah.
and that they're providing the same level of, training and support that they would to their own employees.
It's not like they're entering a vacuum, right? I mean,
No.
they're going up against some pretty big names in these new markets.
Absolutely. You've got a company like Titan, for example.
Right.
They're already a household name all over India,
Yeah.
and they've got this reputation for quality and customer service that's really tough to beat.
Yeah, it is.
And then you've got players like Callian Jewelers who are really good at marketing themselves and appealing to those more budget-conscious customers.
So how does Senco stand out
Right.
in a crowd of these really established players?
What seems like one way they're trying to do that is by pushing diamond jewelry more aggressively. Remember when we were talking about stud ratios earlier?
Yeah.
Basically, the more diamond jewelry they sell,
Uh-huh.
the higher their profit margins tend to be.
Okay.
So it makes sense that they would want to, increase that ratio.
Yeah.
But getting people to buy more diamonds is easier said than done, especially when you've got the price of gold being so unpredictable.
It seems like they're hedging their bets, so to speak, by pushing both their traditional strengths and these newer digital initiatives. We talked about the Digi Gold and the Digi Silver platforms,
Right.
but they've also been investing pretty heavily in this MySenco app.
Yeah, and that's a smart move in a country where more and more people are getting access to smartphones and the internet.
Right.
I mean, imagine being able to just browse and buy gold right from your phone.
Right from your phone.
It's all about convenience.
Convenience isn't everything, though.
True.
Consumers today, especially younger ones, are more discerning, I think. They care about where their jewelry comes from, how it's made. Do they address those concerns?
It seems like they do, at least on paper, they've made a big deal about joining the Responsible Jewelry Council. And, using recycled gold. They even talked about their efforts to ensure fair labor practices throughout their entire supply chain.
So it seems like they're not just trying to appeal to people's desire for shiny objects.
Right.
They're really trying to tap into this growing sense of ethical consumerism.
And that could be a really powerful differentiator for them.
Yeah.
People are becoming more and more aware of the environmental and social impact of their purchases.
Yeah, they are.
And Senco is positioning themselves as a brand that aligns with those values.
It's almost like they're trying to redefine what it means to be a luxury brand in the 21st century instead of just being about, exclusivity and high prices.
Right.
It's also about responsibility, transparency.
That's a great way to put it. But, it's one thing to talk the talk.
Right.
They actually walk the walk.
Yeah, it's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
We've seen a lot of companies try to rebrand themselves as ethical or sustainable,
Right.
only to be exposed for hypocrisy later on.
Exactly.
So how can we, and more importantly our listener, get a sense of whether Senco's commitment is genuine?
Well, one thing to look at is, are they actually putting their money where their mouth is?
Okay.
Are they investing in things like third-party audits of their supply chain?
Okay.
Are they transparently reporting on their sustainability efforts? Are they getting recognition from reputable organizations for the work that they're doing?
And are they consistent in their messaging?
Absolutely.
Because if they're touting these ethical practices in one breath
Right.
and then launching a massive marketing campaign that feels totally tone deaf,
Yeah.
that's kind of a red flag for me.
It is. It's all about looking for those signs of genuine commitment, both in their words and their actions.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, consumers are smart. They can smell a phony from a mile away.
So we've talked about their expansion plans, their competitive landscape, and their efforts to position themselves as an ethical and sustainable brand. But we haven't really talked about their internal operations.
Yeah.
What's going on behind the scenes at Senco?
It's interesting you bring that up because Senco has actually been investing quite a bit in upgrading their internal systems and processes.
Okay.
For example, they've implemented some really robust information security management systems and streamlined their procurement processes.
Okay, but why should our listener care about that?
Well,
It sounds kind of boring, to be honest.
it might sound boring, but it's actually really important for their overall efficiency and profitability.
Okay.
By streamlining their operations, they can reduce costs, improve their response times, and ultimately deliver a better customer experience.
So it's not just about making things look pretty on the outside.
Right.
It's also about having a really solid foundation behind the scenes.
Exactly. And they seem to be taking that pretty seriously.
Oh.
They've also adopted some really advanced technologies in their manufacturing facilities, like 3D printing and CAD-driven designing.
Hold on, 3D printing for jewelry.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
it is. And it's a great example of how they're blending tradition with technology.
Yeah.
They could use 3D printing to create prototypes really quickly
Okay.
and experiment with new designs
Ah.
while still relying on those skilled caragars to bring the designs to life with their craftsmanship.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
They're trying to build a business that's both modern and sustainable, tech-savvy and handcrafted national in scope, but still deeply rooted in their Eastern India heritage.
It's a fascinating balancing act.
It is.
And they're not afraid to experiment and push the boundaries.
Yeah.
But we've also seen that they're not immune to challenges.
Their recent financial performance, the intense competition, the volatility of gold prices,
Right.
it's a lot to juggle.
It is.
So how do we assess their prospects?
Yeah.
Do they have what it takes to achieve these ambitious goals?
Well, that's what we're going to explore in our final segment.
Okay.
We're going to analyze their strategies for navigating the challenges ahead and really delve deeper into their long-term growth potential.
Sounds good. So we've covered a lot of ground with Senco.
We have.
You know, from their history and financials to their sustainability efforts, their investments in technology.
Yeah.
Seems like they're really trying to do it all.
They're ambitious. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, this Indian jewelry market, it's not easy.
It's tough.
You've got some really big players in there.
Yeah, we talked about Titan and Callion Jewelers.
Right.
But what about Malabar Gold and Diamonds?
Oh, yeah.
They're another huge name.
They're a giant.
And they've got that global reach and those ethical sourcing practices.
Malabar is a force, especially in South India,
Yeah.
where they have a really strong presence,
Right.
and their international expansion gives them access to all sorts of different suppliers and customers.
It does.
And that emphasis on ethical sourcing, that really aligns with what consumers are looking for these days.
It does.
That transparency, that responsibility.
So Senco's trying to carve out a space for themselves
Right.
in a market that's already dominated by these big names.
It's a challenge.
How do they plan to stand out?
Well, I think they're making a few key bets.
Okay.
First, that long history they have
Uh-huh.
and that strong brand recognition in Eastern India,
Mm-hmm.
that gives them a really solid foundation to build on.
Yeah. People in that region, they already know the Senco name.
They trust it.
Right, but they can't just rely on their past success, can they?
No, they can't.
This market's changing quickly. Consumer tastes are evolving.
Exactly, and that's where their second bet comes in.
Okay.
This willingness to really embrace innovation.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about their investments in things like 3D printing,
Yeah.
CAD-driven design, but they're also experimenting with new retail concepts,
Like what?
like virtual reality experiences in their stores.
Wait, hold on. Virtual reality in a jewelry store?
It's pretty wild.
What does that even look like?
Imagine you walk in,
Yeah.
you want to try on a necklace or a ring,
Mm-hmm.
you can do it virtually.
Wow.
You don't even have to physically put it on.
Okay.
Or let's say you want to design a custom piece. You can visualize it in 3D before it's even made.
That's pretty cool.
It's about making the whole shopping experience more immersive,
Mm-hmm.
more interactive.
But does it actually work?
That's the question.
Do people actually want that?
That's what Senco's trying to figure out.
Yeah.
They're experimenting with these technologies,
Yeah.
seeing what works,
Yeah.
what resonates with their target audience.
Right.
And it's not just about being flashy or trendy either.
Okay.
It's about using this technology to enhance their core values,
Yeah. Yeah.
quality craftsmanship.
Okay.
I mean, they're using 3D printing
yeah.
to create these really intricate and detailed designs.
Wow.
Things that you couldn't even achieve with traditional handcrafting techniques alone.
So they're leveraging that heritage
Yes.
while also pushing the boundaries with innovation.
Absolutely.
But what about the big question? The price of gold.
Yes.
That's a big one.
It is.
It's unpredictable.
It is volatile.
How are they dealing with that?
Well, we talked about those hedging strategies.
Yeah.
That's designed to protect them from those price swings.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, they're also focusing on diversifying what they offer.
Okay.
It's not just gold jewelry anymore.
Right.
They're pushing diamond jewelry, silver jewelry, even platinum jewelry.
And they're expanding into other categories,
Yeah.
like with their Sen's brand,
Exactly.
watches, perfumes, accessories.
You want to be that one-stop shop for all things luxury.
It's a big goal.
It is a risky move, though.
Yeah.
Expanding into too many categories can dilute their brand,
Right.
make it harder to compete with the more specialized players.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it also gives them access to new revenue streams
Right.
and lets them appeal to a wider range of customers.
So after all of this, what's the verdict?
Yeah.
Can Senco really pull this off?
It's the big question.
Can they achieve these ambitious goals?
In such a competitive market,
Yeah.
honestly, I think they have a fighting chance.
Okay.
They're not just resting on their laurels. They're
Okay.
adapting, they're innovating, they're taking risks.
They've got the strong brand,
Yes.
that commitment to quality,
Mm-hmm.
and that willingness to embrace both the traditional and the new.
Exactly. And they're not afraid to push the boundaries in this industry.
But they are facing challenges.
They are.
That competition is fierce.
It is.
The cost of gold is unpredictable.
Volatile.
Consumer preferences are constantly changing.
It's a lot to keep up with.
It is. So their success really comes down to execution.
It does.
Can they execute their strategies, stay ahead of the trends,
Yeah.
and keep that laser focus on their customer? Now, here's something for you, our listener, to think about.
Okay.
We've seen how Senco blends tradition and technology, craftsmanship, and innovation. But as technology keeps advancing, how will that balance shift in the future?
That's a good question.
Will Senco be able to maintain that human touch, the artistry, the emotional connection that's always been so important with jewelry?
Yeah. Will it become more automated?
More data-driven, more focused on just pure efficiency?
It's a tough question.
It's a question that goes beyond Senco, I think.
I think so too.
It's something that all businesses are going to have to think about.
Especially in creative fields.
Yeah, those craft-based industries.
It's something to really ponder.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Senco Gold and Diamonds.
My pleasure.
We hope this gave you some valuable insights into their business,
Yeah.
the challenges they face,
Absolutely.
and their potential for growth.
It's a fascinating company.
It is. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those tough questions.
Couldn't agree more.